and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast, the fastest rising podcast on this side of the Atlantic. I'm here for a very special. I've copied Shane saying if anyone who is watching not on YouTube will see Shane's face is completely just dropped then because I just completely stole your opening line.
You did. You did.
Yeah, I'm here with Shane Harris, our resident Baltimore Ravens fan, who you may know from our previous episodes involving when the Dolphins beat the Ravens in the
All right.
week 3, week 4, and then you came on for the season preview as well. So first of all, Shane, how have you been?
Andy, let me just get it out the way. Absolute pleasure to be back on. Um, I wish we could be speaking in different circumstances, but unfortunately it is what it is. Yes, but I'm all good, all good. Just I hate this break before the season starts, you know. I would say there's not much going on, but we both know that's not true.
Yeah, certainly. I say the last 3 or 4 years, really, it has turned almost like the NBA, where it is, all these massive players are moving. Whereas I remember my first few years watching the NFL, free agency came, and it was often you get maybe one big player moving, but you're seeing all the big players moving all the time, and I think that's really cool. But I think also for fans who are fans, people who are fans of the teams that have got big players leaving, it's not as nice. But of course, we are here for one reason and one reason only: the news that came out yesterday that Lamar Jackson himself tweeted the news that he has requested a trade. I'm going to read you out exactly what his tweet was from his account. It says, a letter to my fans. I want to first thank you all for the love and support you consistently show towards me. All of you are amazing and I appreciate you all so much. I want you all to know not to believe everything you read about me. Let me personally answer your questions. In regards to my future plans, as of March 2nd, I requested a trade from the Ravens organisation, for which the Ravens has not been interested in meeting my value. And everyone that has met me or been around me will know that I love the game of football and my dream is to help a team win a Super Bowl. You were all great, but I had to make the business decision that was best for my family. And no matter how far I go or where my career takes me, I will continue to be close to my fans of Baltimore Flock Nation and the entire state of Maryland. You'll see me again. I mean, we'll certainly see him again, especially if he goes to the AFC. I mean, your thoughts, Shane? I mean, on the whole thing, because you obviously, I think you said to me you've got a Lamar Jackson jersey, or maybe you wore one on Twitter or something. So you obviously, you're a fan of the player, and he's MVP in 2019 season. You've won, I think, 2 playoff games, if not just one. But what's your views been on the whole situation, and what was your reaction when that news came out yesterday?
Firstly, I can't say I didn't see it come in because they've been sort of struggling to get on the same page for a while. It's never nice when you arguably your best player, your face of the franchise, decides he wants to play somewhere else. But if you noticed in his tweet, everything was about him, what he wanted, my value, and things like that. And this all started, it may have started many moons ago, but only recently has it started with the Aaron Rodgers deal in Green Bay and also the Deshaun Watson deal as well in Cleveland, where they basically, the franchises are backing up the Brinks truck with money and saying, right, have what you want. And Lamar's like, yeah, I want that. And the Ravens are like, no. At the end of the day, 2019 MVP, absolutely electric player on his day, could easily be the face of this league, but he can't stay fit. He cannot stay fit. And I personally, whenever he gets the ball in his hands, I'm almost a bit sort of nervous as to what he's going to do next. Because I don't rate him highly as a passer. He's not in the same league as the likes of Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. So like, and the fact that he's holding the organization hostage, which I think he is. But one thing he did do, which I noticed and I thought was fair on his part, he asked for a trade on March the 2nd. That was a week and a half before free agency started. So they had plenty of time to sort that issue out and then get somebody in new then when free agency started. He didn't just spring this upon them, you know?
Yeah, and I think you look at like all the quarterbacks that have moved since that March 2nd date. You look at Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, even Aaron Rodgers. A lot of the quarterbacks have been a lot of quarterback movement this offseason. And I think that now the Ravens, because they haven't dealt with this straight away, if he is to leave, who are they going to get in? Because all the big, apart from Aaron Rodgers, who we know is going to the Jets, he put out there on Pat McAfee. But who can they get? I mean, are they going to? get two first off a team that wants a quarterback like the Raiders or Colts and go for quarterback in the draft, or are they going to just have a year where they maybe tank and go for a quarterback next year? What do you think is going to happen in terms of if he is to leave? What do you think the Ravens are gonna do got a quarterback? Where do you think they're going to go, and what player would you think they might go for?
Firstly, I don't think he's going anywhere this season because any team that wants to talk to him is going to have to pony up two first round draft picks and a truckload of money to sign him. And I don't think he's going to go anywhere. And John Harbaugh was saying yesterday that he loves him and how much the organization think of him, and he's going to be a Raven next year. I think he will be as well, whether he's on the bench behind Tyler Huntley or whether he's starting. And again, he dropped the news yesterday during the coaches' breakfast.
Mm.
So basically, John Harbaugh was there, being interviewed about other different things. And literally, the second he sat down, Lamar, released that tweet. So yeah, he was a little ambushed. I thought that was a little dirty, to be fair.
Mm.
And the fact that Lamar is representing himself, he doesn't have any experience in how to handle these situations, So he's doing it all himself. So there's that. Maybe an agent would have said to him, "Look, don't send that. We'll handle it." But yeah, as for regarding who we're going to get in, I personally think we should sit Lamar next year, get Tyler Huntley under center, and as you said, tank or see how it goes. And when he can see that his team is struggling because of his behavior, maybe he'll change his mind. And let's be perfectly honest, right? He says, "Oh, what's best for me and my family." I hardly think they're going to be offering him peanuts for a new contract.
No, this is my biggest gripe is that all these people go about they want what's best for their family and they're turning down £20 million a year. But if you told me I could have 20, 50, even £15 million a year, I would take that. Even 2 million a year, that's enough for a family. I think there's definitely an element of greed with all sports, but not just NFL players. And I think that I do agree that the Deshaun Watson deal has completely ruined the market because there's no way you give Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, the amount of money you've given them for just one good season. So it's there's definitely an element of greed, and I think that it is the case where they've seen Deshaun Watson get paid this much, and he didn't exactly light up the room, and he got all this guaranteed money for basically being not a very nice person, and I think that they're now seeing that as a benchmark. I think, well, if he's getting paid that, I want that, but the Ravens, I think quite rightly, are standing their ground and they're not doing it. And I think that you're wearing a Joe Flacco top, and the Ravens have proved that they've won Super Bowls with limited quarterbacks. Colin Cowherd made this great point. You had Trent Dilfer, you had Joe Flacco, who won Super Bowls in the Brady Manning era. So it's not as if they've had bad quarterbacks and it's affected them. Obviously, they could have won more if they had like some Mahomes, but they've been a team throughout certainly my lifetime and certainly before that, where defense has been their main thing, and that's what won them games. And I think that the Ravens have won without him, and they're going to win without him again if he does leave. So I think that the Ravens, for me, I think also not only are they doing the right thing for their organisation, I think they're also doing the right thing for the future because they're now, if this works, they don't pay the money and you get to move and all that. They've proved to the rest of the teams, the whole league and players that you can't just bully your way and get your way and get the money. And they're going to show teams that you can actually pay the right money and not overpay, and you can stand your ground. I think that can be almost a good benchmark to get it right back to basics and show players that look, the team, you may have some power, but the teams ultimately have to still have the power. And if we don't want to pay that much money, especially with your injury record, then I think that that's a great example. So I think that does leave on the question now is if he is to leave, where do you think the best fit is for him? I mean, personally, I think the best fit is Atlanta. But I do think the best team to go for him is the Patriots. But I don't know what your thought is on the situation. Where would you think that he'd be best suited if he was to leave?
Let's not get it wrong, right? He's a superstar. Well, on his day, he's as good as anybody in that league for scoring points and making plays. So I think he could bring a franchise up. He could go to the Colts, or like you said, he could go to the Falcons, which I think that would make he'd be Michael Vick 2.0 then, wouldn't he, in Atlanta? He'd be loved. And the fact that they've got a young receiving core as well, with the likes of Drake London and Kyle Pitts, I think he'd do well in Atlanta. But as I said, he's basically priced himself out of a move of going anywhere. And regarding the quarterback for us, if he does go anywhere, I wouldn't mind bringing back Joe Cool for another year.
Oh no!
Let's jump on the nostalgia train.
Oh God, I mean, I think if you brought him back, that is the ultimate sign of tanking. I think Joe Flacco was never great in the first place, let alone however old he is now. So it's yeah, I think that it's certainly worrying time for Ravens fans if he is to leave, because or even just sit out the year, because you've got one of the best teams in the whole league, a team I think right now, time of recording, could make the Super Bowl in your division in the Bengals. You know, you've got the Browns who can have Deshaun Watson. They would hope, but improve this year and the refs be shaken off. And of course, the Steelers, another year with Kenny Pickett. They got Mike Tomlin, of course, never lost, had a losing season. And they got a great defense, which, missed TJ Watt if he's back next year. So that's a tough division. Um, I think now you could realistically say that this team could finish bottom of the AFC North next year if Lamar was to not play the whole of next year.
I don't like that. I don't like
No,
that. But you saying that we could potentially finish bottom, um, yeah, but it's not out of the question.
no.
What might be interesting is we could potentially, because I can see Carolina are building something.
Mm.
They've got the first round pick. They've nabbed a couple of trades and free agents over the last few weeks, and they're building something. I wouldn't mind trading LJ for the first round pick and seeing if we can get a quarterback from that. And then they'll have a superstar, and we'll have a potential superstar.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great shout, because the Panthers, whilst even though he got the injury problems, he is a proven NFL player. You know that if he is on the field, he will perform well. And I think that whilst these quarterbacks in college, like CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, for example, Anthony Richardson, are great prospects, Will Levis as well, it's not a guarantee. I mean, you just don't know. That's the beauty of the draft in a way, that you just don't know how a player will translate to pros. And I think that if you've got a guy, I think he's 26, he's not exactly like a Aaron Rodgers
26,
where
yeah.
he's 39, 38, or even early 30s. This guy is in his mid 20s. He's still, not even got to his prime yet. And I do think his passing is underrated, but I think it could definitely do some work. So I think that if you've got a guy there who's got potential, but he's a great NFL player, I think that that's actually a good shot. I think the Panthers would take that in a heartbeat, and I think the Ravens would actually prefer a more pocket passer like they had with Trent Dilfer, like with Joe Flacco, all the rest
Yeah,
before them. So I think that if they go for, I think someone like CJ Stroud is probably the best example of a pocket passer among those four that everyone's talking about. Maybe five if you include Herndon Hooker. So I think you could easily see that, and I think I would look at the Seattle Seahawks as well, a team that they love a run first offense. Atlanta's the same thing as well. So I think I think they're now going to go the route that they're going to probably get Anthony Richardson, and they're going to have Geno Smith ahead of him for 3 years. But I think they could easily be a team that also does this and maybe trades away Geno Smith, but that's unlikely because of the money they just gave him. So I think for me,
yeah.
yeah, Washington are a shout, because they got Sam Howell, but do they really believe in Sam Howell?
And
Brissett,
it's just down the road for him as well, isn't it? You haven't even got to move house.
hmm. Say that again. Sorry, I think the line
It's,
was.
yeah, and it's Washington's just down the road from Baltimore. He doesn't have to
Mm.
move house, does he?
No, exactly. Yeah, I mean, he can just sit where he is. And yeah, I think Washington's a good fit, because whilst Atlanta, they have got, I think both Washington and Atlanta, they've got sort of callbacks from last year's draft that aren't exactly proven yet. And I think that
No.
they would both happily, do that. And I think the Patriots as well. I think you could easily see a situation where, Mac Jones for Lamar Jackson was maybe a draft pick as well. The Patriots go in for him. I think Lamar Jackson would love to go there, but I personally would absolutely hate that, because not only have we got Aaron Rodgers coming to our division now and Josh Allen as well, to have Lamar Jackson as well would be awful. I think the Patriots had so many years where they've been our biggest rivals team that always wins the division, and it's finally a year where they're nowhere near being contender for the division. And I think that it would be so annoying to have the Jets and Patriots both improve with these quarterbacks. But at the
I
end of
think
the day,
Belichick would have to rewrite. I think Belichick would have to rewrite the playbook if he had like a mobile quarterback. You know,
yeah, of course we saw with Cam Newton, albeit Cam Newton was well over the hill. I think that we saw him have some
he was a
success
bit
in
of
the
a
first
coffee.
few weeks, and then since COVID got hit, he wasn't the same. And I don't know whether Belichick at his age would want to change his playbook, whereas he's probably only got, I reckon, 2 or 3 years left. And I think that
Yeah,
he wants to try and win now. But if you want to win now, you go for Lamar Jackson. But at the same time, I don't know. But if Lamar Jackson was to stay in Baltimore, final question for you, Shane, before we do end this recording, is that the biggest thing has been about him that not really much receiving help apart from Mark Andrews. So if he is to stay, and if you were to pay him money, or if he was to sort of go down in his requests, how, because that's been the biggest takeaway from the last 2 years. How do you improve that? Obviously, you've got a first round pick. Do you go out and get a receiver, or how are you guys going to address what is your biggest need, which is the lack of receiver help for Lamar Jackson?
Well, we brought in Nelson Aguilar. I wasn't very overwhelmed with that, shall we say. That's a little tiny bit of help. Yeah, we're gonna have to go for a wide receiver in the draft. I think like the likes of Zay Flowers or Jackson Najigba as well.
Mm.
There's two first rounders that are going to go in the first round. If they even fall in our laps, hopefully they will. But as I said, I think with this Lamar Jackson situation, the fans feel a little bit betrayed, I think, with the fact that, as I said, he is the face of the franchise. You think of the Baltimore Ravens now, you think of Lamar Jackson. He was the one that was on the cover of Madden in 2019, so he's the face of the franchise. And the fact that he can't bring himself to sort of get on the same page as the Ravens and say, right, offer me what you can and I'll stay. That's why people like Tom Brady are so great. They had team-friendly deals. Mm-hmm. They wanted to stay. They won Super Bowls. They were brilliant for their teams, for the Pats and for the Bucks, because they had team-friendly deals. But we do need to get wide receiving help, obviously. And I think OBJ is left. But then his best days are behind him. But like I said, I can't see. He'll stay because nobody will pay him. But then, as I said, I don't particularly want him to stay, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think fair play. I think another wide receiver I personally have loved watching tape on in the last few weeks is Jordan Addison.
Yes.
I think he's a great prospect. I think he's my favourite out of the receiver. I think that I don't know whether they'll take him as a first receiver, whether it will be Jackson Smith, Najee, or anyone else, Zay Flowers. But I think that Bijan Robinson is the biggest talent from this draft. I think to the wide receivers, whilst it's not a great class this year, I think those three particularly stand out as wide receivers. But that is, of course, all to come, and we will hear from Shane again come nearer towards the season starting, when we will do a Baltimore Ravens season preview again as we go through all of the 32 teams, hopefully again, and preview that season. So, yeah, for the shorter episode than normal, thank you, Shane, for coming on, first of all.
Andy, no worries anytime. Before we go, I've got to plug my own podcast, the Third and Long podcast, on Facebook Live, 8:30 on a Thursday. You can find us. We're also available on YouTube as well. I'm sure Andy will put the link in the in the appropriate section.
Oh, yes. Now, put that on our socials as well, so do check that out. And yeah, look forward to seeing more of your content coming up in the future for what is the second highest rising podcast across the Atlantic.
You're not wrong there, but you're not wrong.
Yeah, been a pleasure having you. This has been the Across the Pod podcast. I've been Andy. This has been Shane. We'll see you guys next time.
Cheers, guys. Bye.